sometimes it takes a lot of words of writing to explain something that's fairly straightforward once you see it. So I'm also going to use videos to show you how tablet weaving works and how I think about tablet weaving. So here's my tablet weaving warp stretched in my loom, and I've been weaving on this some, so you can see that this is the cloth end here with the already woven cloth on it. If I were working on a floor loom, this would attach to the cloth beam, but most tablet weaving looms don't have beams. And then heading out the other direction, this way, is the unwoven warp. That's the warp end. So the cloth end is where you're working, and the warp end, the way most people sit, will be the far end on your loom. So that gives us one axis, the axis along the warp. Tablet woven bands also have a distinct front and back side. And the front side is where we want the pattern to show up so we can see what we're doing. So this is the front or the face, and underneath it looks very different, you can see, and that's the back or the reverse. So that gives us another axis. It gives us our vertical axis with the top and the bottom, or the face and the back. It's important to think about it this way because there are a lot of different kinds of tablet weaving looms. And while probably most of you are using looms where you sit at the cloth end, there are a lot of other ways to work on it. And I teach people who use all kinds of setups. I've finished a full pattern repeat of the pattern we're using. So my tablets are all in the home position. So I have 2 selvage cards, both threaded all green, and threaded in such a way that the threads are going opposite directions through the holes. And then here's the first pattern card. All of the pattern cards are threaded in the same direction. If you follow the threads as they come from the cloth end, they come this way and go through the holes and come out to the warp end. So you can see that here, here, and here. They're all the same, all the way across the pack, until you get to the selvage cards, which again are threaded in opposite directions. It's really important to have your cards threaded this way for the pattern we're weaving. Otherwise, your face will look like that, and the reverse will look like that. And it'll be very confusing. These are set up in the home position because it's the beginning of the pattern. So the 2 dark threads, see here, are towards the cloth end, and then the 2 dark threads are on the bottom, then they're on the warp end, and then they're on the top. And the next 4, same thing, cloth end, bottom, warp end, top, spiraling all across the pack through all 16 pattern cards. That's the home position. At the end of every 4 rows, you can stop and check and make sure your cards are in the home position. If they are, then you didn't make a mistake and everything worked great. So, since I'm at the beginning of the pattern, the first set of rows is turning the cards forward 4 times. Each turn is a quarter turn, and a forward turn takes the side facing the cloth end and brings it to the top. The side facing the top now faces the warp end, and so on. If you were to imagine riding a bicycle down your warp, starting at the cloth end and running that way, forward is the way that the bicycle wheel would turn. So after you turn the cards, you get a new shed. So the first thing to do is pack the shed down with your shuttle or a butter knife or a ruler or whatever you're using. Tighten the weft from the previous row and then pass the shuttle through with the weft. So that's one pick. Second pick, exactly the same. Turn the cards forward. Beat down the shed. Tighten the weft. I'm pulling fairly snugly, you can see. and pass it through. 3, turn the cards, tight, and pass. And 4, this is the last one of this set. Beat, tighten, pass the weft. And I can look if I did it right. The cards are back in their home position. So here, dark on the cloth end, dark on the bottom, dark on the warp end, dark on the top, and so on, all the way through the pack. So this is what we just wove. You can see that the diagonal lines are the same all the way across the width of the band. That's because we turned all of the cards the same way. The second set of 4 rows, the selvage cards turn forward and the pattern cards turn backward. There are lots of different ways to do this. You don't have to separate them into 2 packs. I am, just to make it easier to see how it works. So for backwards turns, the top side of the card turns toward the cloth end. What was facing the warp end becomes the top, and so on around the pack. And selvage cards turn forward. They always turn forward. Everything else is exactly the same. Beat down the shed, tighten the weft, and pull the weft all the way through. 2, back. Selvage cards forward. Beat, tighten, pass. 3, tighten, pass, and 4. Check that, and yep, the dark threads are once again on the cloth end, bottom, warp end, top. So we're back to home position. We've done all 4 turns. So. I'm going to stick a spacer in just for now and show you a couple of things. So eventually your selvages are going to get all twisted up. The reason we have diagonals here is because the warp threads are twisting around each other, but that means they also twist here. The pattern we're using is designed so that the cards turn forward and backward the same number of times, so the twist doesn't build up. But the selvage cards, the twist does build up. Eventually you need to reverse the direction to untangle it. The very easiest way to do that is to flip those cards around their vertical axis. 1 and 2. That changes the threading direction, and it means that you can keep turning them forward with every row and they'll untwist. Flip and flip. So you notice the top threads that were on top stayed on top, and I just flipped them this way. So that changes just the threading direction. So now I can keep turning my selvage cards forward as I weave, and it will unweave the twist here. It'll make a little bump at the edge of the band, and if you look closely you can see that the threads in the 2 selvage cards are twining in opposite directions, and those directions will reverse. But it'll be almost imperceptible unless you look very close. And I also want to show you the more complicated rows of this pattern have the cards turned different directions in sets of 4. And I wanted to show you how I do that You can do it any way you want. You can divide all of the cards into 2 packs or anything, but I do it like this. So say that they're backwards, then forwards, then backwards and forwards. So I go through bit by bit. So here's my salvage cards turning forward. The first 4 pattern cards turning backward. The next 4 turning forward. The next 4 turning backward. The next 4 turning forward. And the salvage cards turning forward. Again, that's how I do it. You can do it any way that's comfortable for you. So I hope that explains some of the things that we were looking at in the handout. If you have questions, keep asking me. I am here to help.